The Movement number 5, written by Gail Simone, art by Freddie Williams II. So, last issue was basically just a big fight scene with all the cops and stuff, and then they gave a bunch of origin stuff in between. This issue, a lot more cohesive in my opinion. So, we open up with Mr. Cannon, the bad guy of the series, giving this talk to like a board of directors, and he's basically saying like, well, these socialists, these kids out there, we got to teach them a lesson, so we're going to add more firepower to the police. And all the directors are like, okay, see, Mr. Cannon, here's the thing. You're kind of bringing a lot of attention to us, and if everybody can record us and get our faces, because we like being a shadowy organization and all, maybe we should just leave the city. Maybe leave Coral City to its own devices. That sounds better to me. And then Cannon's like, good, but where would you go? And he pulls up this huge TV array of showing all these, like, the movement has spread across the entirety of America and even outside America as well. So nowhere is safe from this idea of police accountability. So we go to a donut shop, or a diner, I should say, where the main cop, I can't remember his name, but the main cop steps up and meets up with Virtue. And Virtue is out of costume, and she's just like, oh, it's Captain Mears, that's what it is. And Mears is like, oh, so you're not wearing your mask. And she's like, oh no, you might see the skin around my eyes. How tantalizing. Look, you still don't know who I am. It's no big deal. And Mears basically says, okay, you want to know what's up? Here's what's up. You have 2 of my cops, and I need them back. And she's like, okay, why? Why should I give them back to you? And she's like, well, I know that you're planning a trial of these cops, and it's all for the cameras. And Virtue's like, oh, so you do have a mole. Okay, well, thank you for that information. And he lays out like, look, I'm not here to argue. I'm here to save your people, because they're sending in like superhuman people now. It's not just cops you're dealing with. It's going to be people with actual powers. And I don't think you can handle that. And she's like, all right, well, you still have yet to offer me anything. And he's like, all right, 2 things. 1, a civilian review board for the claims of police malfeasance. It won't be an internal thing anymore. And 2, we go back to patrolling your area, but if a civilian wants, they can do a ride along at their own risk. That's on them. And she's just like, okay, those are 2 pretty good things, but like, why do it? This isn't popular for you. Why are you going to do it? And she's just like, because I agree. The cops should be doing good, and we have failed at that quite a bit. But I need you to understand here, the biggest thing is that they are bringing in superhumans to try to quash you. You need to back down. And she uses her virtue power to read the cop, and she's just like, I believe you. I think you're telling the truth, but regardless, we're not going to back down. We're still going to hold this trial for the cops. And she's like, no, you don't understand. You need to stop it. And she's like, even if I wanted to, I can't. It's already begun. And we cut over to the trial, and we show that the prosecution is catharsis, whereas the defense is tremor. And they basically say the only thing you're on trial here for is the sexual harassment of a minor. How you went after that blonde girl in issue 1. How do you plead? And the one big cop is just basically like dead silence, not playing along at all. But the younger one says guilty. Look, they have us on tape. We did it. I want to go home to my family. Let's get out of here. And he apologizes for his actions and whatnot, but the other cop, Wit, he just stays silent the whole time. And the girl's in the audience, and she's just like, oh, you're sorry? That big guy had me fearing for my life, and you're sorry? So we cut back real quick to Mears, who hops into the car with Officer Yi, who, if you remember, is the one who was sleeping with his wife, and basically tells Officer Yi, like, look, she paid for the bill in mostly singles. She's clearly not a stripper. She's working with tips, but it's not like a high tipping place. It's not high bills. So my guess is she's working at like some low down chain restaurant in the area as a waitress. Start sending out all the scouts in that area. We're going to track her down, and we're going to figure out what's going on. So we see Tremor providing the defense, saying like, Officer Witt, have you gotten any commendations? And he's like, yeah, 4 times. And he's like, oh, what was the last one for? And he's like, I saved a child from a burning building. And he's like, that's very heroic of you. And Catharsis stands up and is like, that has nothing. They can save a baby and be sexual harassers. Just because they were good in the one instance doesn't mean they're good overall. And Wit starts freaking out, but then Lou is just like, no, we messed up. We admit that. We're just humans. We make mistakes. But like it gets to us when we are trying to do our best, but nobody out there trusts us. Nobody trusts the police. And how are we supposed to be able to work like that? But seriously, and he looks at the girl like, I am sorry. I am truly, absolutely sorry. And Wit's basically like, enough. This is a stupid kangaroo court. I don't recognize its legitimacy. You do what you're going to do, but you're fooling yourself and it's going to change anything. And Vengeance Moth, who's running the whole thing, is like, well, maybe, but regardless, we're going to send this to the jury. So at that point, we cut over to Mouse, who's writing letters to Tremor saying how much he loves her and wants her to be his girlfriend. And that's just a thing. And then up above the sewers where he sleeps, we see the cornea killer has cornered a woman and is about to cut out her eyes when all of a sudden a mouse sees it and goes down and talks to Mouse himself, being like, oh, are you sure it's the cornea killer? Well, we have to get up there. So we cut over to Vengeance Moth, who's leading the prisoners, the cops, back to their cells. No jury's been returned yet, but she's just like, oh, well, I don't know if you did it or not. That's not for me to judge. That's up to a jury. And at that point, Wit's like, dude, this is just a chick in a wheelchair. We can take her out. Let's get out of here. They're going to kill us. They are going to murder us on camera. They're terrorists. We got to go. And so he flips over Vengeance Moth's wheelchair and dumps her on the ground. And we see two things simultaneously. The first is that Vengeance Moth has some sort of powers where she floats up into the air saying like, oh, you shouldn't have done that. Now I know you're one of the bad ones. And she starts going to attack the cops. And Catharsis sees this and was like, oh, you dumped her out of her wheelchair, huh? Well, have at ye. And then we get up to the cornea killer thing. He's about to kill this young woman when Mouse comes out of the sewer and starts attacking him. He managed to get off a few good hits, but Cornea Killer just straight up throws him into a wall and says, like, you're not allowed to touch me. You're undesirable. And Mouse manages to get a scratch off on his face and says, like, well, Virtue says you don't get to do this anymore. So go. Get out of here. And he says, well, I'll get to it in a second. I do want to get back to the cops thing. As Catharsis is about to attack the officers, she is stopped in her tracks by Tremor, who turns out to be the mole. She opens up a hole in the wall for the cops and says, go, get out of here, take the tunnel and run. Catharsis is like, you're a traitor. You betrayed the movement. And she's like, if this is what the movement's about, I don't want to be in the movement anymore. I quit. So the last thing we get is a Cornea Killer, as he's scratched by Mouse, says, oh, you don't understand. I bought and paid for this city. I own this. And as such, we've hired some new groundkeepers. Behold, the Graveyard Faction. And it's a group of seemingly like 4 supervillains with superpowers that are here to take out the movement. And sure, I like it. I do want to make that clear. That long, exasperated sigh is not because I didn't like it. It's just each of these issues, it feels like they're stretching themselves too thin. This is the first one where there's only really been like 2 plots running at any given time. We had Virtue talking to the cop, and then we had this trial thing going on. And then when Virtue was done, we went over to Mouse. That's fine. I'm fine with that. It felt very contained, very centralized and focused. It felt like a good read. My problem is that I skipped over a bunch of points in there where, like, there's a point where Burden, just while he's seeing Catharsis beat up the cops, is like, my mother said I should always fight for the side of good, but I don't know what that is anymore. And I'm like, I don't care. It's not that I don't think Burden could be an interesting character to, like, dive into. It's that he's not a part of this scene, and cutting away to his internal monologue is actively distracting. So, mild issues with that, but it happens frequently enough that it is a problem. So overall, I'm going to give this one a 6. It's fine. It's okay. It's not great by any standards, but it is positive movement. I feel like it's it's finally saying what it wants to say since issue 1, which is like, yeah, no, police have issues. They need to be confronted. They need to be talked about, but this book is taking the stance of not every cop is a bad cop. It is definitely some rotten ones, but there are some that are trying to do the right thing. That's debatable on whatever side you come down on, but I like the way this book is handling the idea at the very least. So I'm going to give this one a 6. I think that's its shining merit. I just wish it was told in a little bit cleaner of a fashion.